All right, so the very first thing I'm going to do here is just, I need to handle like the actual coding of the register button, of the register kind of scene and the welcome scene, especially the register one. But I think I'm just going to deal with my buttons so far. I just want to be able to go, really want to focus on being able to hit add, and then when I hit add, it's going to, or add students, whatever it is, it's going to show the scene. And when I hit go back, it's going to go back to the welcome scene. That's all I want to figure out so far. So if I go into my code here, remember that the primary controller is handling the primary scene. We can check and make sure we know which scene we're using by double-clicking on this. Should pull up our scene builder with primary, all that stuff. So one really important thing that we need to do in order to test this out, is that we've told the computer that there are we've told the code there are a bunch of methods that we're going to have to run. So we've kind of made a promise to the computer, and we need to make sure we have these methods there to run. So let's see, a couple things we could look at here. Let's check our controller. Hey, our controller's not actually hooked up to anything. So we need to make sure that our controller is hooked up to the primary controller. Great, that's one thing. And now we can see that there are two FXIDs things on here. Good, okay. Now what I really want to check though is I want to look in here and go into code, and I want to make sure that I want to make sure that I make this method, because I need to, if I don't have this method, then it's going to throw me an error, because it's going to like, hey, you promised me this method would be there, it's not there, I'm going to make your program crash. So I need to do this and again, I'm in the primary scene. I need to do that in the primary controller. And we could really rename these to be whatever we want. I think we'll have to do that when we add in a third scene, but we can leave it like this for now. So let's say private void, let's see, register student. And we don't really need to do anything in here. We just want to have the method available. And this should, if we go into if we were to actually edit this primary fxml, we should have been getting some errors in here. Like, let's see what we have this error on view students. That's because it's like this handler method not found. You haven't given me a way to take care of this, so I'm going to throw you an error. And all we need to do is go in here, and what do we say? Let me make sure I get the name right. I think it was view. I can just take this part out, right? View students. It's a view students. Did I get the name right? And really, I should really just do like copy. I think I did get it right, but and paste in there. Get rid of the little hashtag. Cool. And so yeah, we're not getting an error. We go back into here. That should get rid of this error, and now everything's fine. Like, it's at least going to work. Yeah, it's not doing anything right now, but it's at least going to work. And so yeah, so let's just deal with our primary controller first. If you recall, the original window on here just had a button that when we clicked it, it went to the other window, and that button, click on that, goes back to this window. So we can actually use some of this code that's already been written for us. This button, this was the method that they were using earlier to switch their window. So we can take this and just use it as our own. So let's go into, we're going to take this thing out of here, and we are going to take this down here. And this throws, actually, you can see what happens if I get rid of this. It's going to give me an error. Should give me, oh, here, this is where it's going to give me the error. And it's going to say unreported exception, IO exception must be declared or caught or declared to be thrown. We're not going to worry too much about that. We can just throw that exception. And that's something going on in the background with FXML, and we just don't need to dig too deep into what's going on there. Just we know that's what we need to do. Okay, so how this is going to work, we talked maybe a little bit about this in class, but I might have skimmed over it in the interest of getting to Scene Builder. But we're going to hit app. So app is the main set of code, the main file here. We can check out app. And then we go into here. And yeah, so this is where we're using the set root. And so basically what this does is it gets in a text, and then it's going to run this fmxl, and it's going to basically take the text, find whatever scene you're referring to, and then change the scene based on whichever fxml file you're using. So in this case, we pass in secondary. So secondary is going to get sent into the app. That's going to send it into this load fxml thing. And we're going to look, oh, hey, there's the secondary fxml file. So let's use that, load that up, and that'll be our new scene. So it's a little bit kind of complicated about how it's working, but it's actually kind of simple in a way. We're just passing in, literally, in here, we're passing in the name of whatever fxml file we want to run the next scene with. And that's kind of just, and the rest of this stuff just builds all that stuff and sets it for us, and we don't need to worry about it. Okay? And this will be a little bit, we'll need to if we add in a third and fourth scene, we could have some issues in there. So we'll have to use this, have to be aware of how to maybe modify this to have it maybe direct to a different XML file, maybe for a third window that we don't have right now. We can absolutely do it. We'll just need to adjust this to make sure it matches the name of whatever new fxml file we do. That's for later on. Okay, sorry. So let's see here. We're good here. I want to just get a really dumb secondary controller set up. Yeah, and we can actually delete all this. I'll leave this tag. This might be useful. I'm not sure. It might not be. It might be. Let me just add it in there just to be safe. Let's go into secondary controller. And again, we're going to have to repeat the same process. We need to figure out, first thing we need to do is figure out what promises did I make to the computer? Like what methods did I say that I was going to use? So probably the easiest way is if we go into this controllers. Oh, and again, look, we don't have a controller. So we need to set this to secondary controller. Again, aligning those two things up. Let's go into name text. And we can go in here and let's do the on action. So we had one method in here we'll need to have is add student. So let me make a public void add student. All right, so that's one. Add ID. It also is going to, remember we had a bunch of these different things. We're all going to implement the add student action. So yeah, okay, so we don't really need to add that one. We already have that one. And that's like if we hit enter in the name text or enter in the ID field. If we hit either one of those, it should do something. And then add button, again, also going to add student. 3 different ways are all going to access the same method. Return button, this is the one we really want to mess with. So let's make sure we have this method here. Oh, and let's do public void. And then here, this is where we want to kind of go back to the primary stage. So hopefully I've explained that enough that I don't need to do that here as well. And this should be fine. Oh, we need to make sure we're importing this little throw clause thing. And yeah, okay, so moment of truth. Let's see if this is going to run. Hopefully we've got everything set up. Okay, so I tried to run this and actually got an error. And what I really want to look by here is I see there's a whole bunch of nonsense in here, a bunch of crazy stuff. This is one thing we don't have to worry about. But let's scroll down here. This is where I'm seeing an error. Error resolving on action view students. Either the event handler is not in the namespace or there is error in the script. So I'll have to take a look through that and see if there's anything, see if that's so. I'll probably pause it and then I'll kind of maybe take me a minute to look through and I'll kind of explain what error happened. But this is, through all this mess, this is what I'm looking for, is that caused by, error caused by on action view students. So remember, it's one of those methods is view students. Let me take a look through that. Okay, so I fixed the first round of errors, first round because there's still more. But yeah, my problem here was that these were not set as public. They should have been public methods because that's how we're going to be able to access them from another class. So that was set to private. I'm not sure why I had set those to private. So I changed that, and now I'm getting now it's on to error number 2. Let's see, we're getting, there was something in here, and there's like a lot of nonsense. Just you can't possibly understand all of this stuff. But we're going to look for some of these critical things, like, okay, not sure about that. We're going to hear caused by, no controller specified, and it's somewhere in the secondary. So I think what happened was I had set this controller, and then I didn't save it. So maybe that's a warning to just make sure that we are saving our fxml files so it does update this, because it won't do it on its own. So fingers crossed for the 3rd time. Okay, I got this to load last time, but when I hit the button, nothing happened. Hey, got it. Good, great. Okay, I'm going to open up the other window. Did I actually code this part, though, where it returns to the other one? Let's see. Hey, look at that. It works. Who would have thought? Phew. Okay, so I got the first part at least working here. And that's kind of looking okay. This is looking maybe not so good, remember, because I used that pane. All right, so I'm going to stop that there. We can at least switch between them. Now what we need to do is we need to actually do the deep part of coding the register. So that'll be our next and potentially close to last video.